So we'll jump right in because we only have one agenda item and we now have quorum with Councilor Perez. So thank you everybody for joining us. This is a meeting of the Maintenance and Development Committee. We have one agenda item and that was referred by the full body a couple of weeks ago. And that is a proposal for metered parking on Myrtle Street alongside the office of the Department of Public Health. And so this was referred to committee because there was some questions from councilors. Anytime there's a proposal to adjust parking restrictions around residential areas, the council always wants to have a little bit more detail. And so I think maybe we can start with the health department because I understand the request came through HHS, and then we can jump over to the parking authority at DPW if we need to. So Deputy Commissioner Dennis or Mr. Pettaway, whoever.
Well, good afternoon, members of the City Council's Maintenance and Development Subcommittee, and those of you who are part of the Traffic Commission. Thank you for allowing us to give our explanation to why we would like to have 4 meters in front of the current location of the Department of Health and Human Services here on the corner of State, and this would represent Myrtle Street. I know we had an opportunity to talk about it at length with the commission, and at that time there were some questions raised on why metered versus free parking for all. Let me give you a little bit of backdrop, and I'd like to recognize the Deputy of Health and Human Services here, Solo Dennis, who made it a priority to be a part of this today. We have occupied the current space now for about 3 years, but prior to our arrival, this space was vacant for 12 years after the sheriff left. The sole parking in its enforcement was theirs. They owned it from one end of Myrtle to the other. There are currently 31 parking opportunities along Myrtle Street. I'd like to thank Chris Signoli and DPW for assisting us with the first 3, if you will, by making that available to us for what we're using for delivery and drop off. As we get kits, masks, medical supplies, anything that comes via courier, US mail, any oversized trucks, to include 18-wheelers who are currently using this and has eased deliveries for us. Prior to that, everyone had to come into what is our employee parking lot, which, as you can imagine, if you've had a chance to come by here, it's a bit congested as we speak. We have, as mentioned, 31, which 3 represent the drop-off, 2 handicaps, which are permanently marked and enforced, and then the 4 in question. And in addition to that, there are 12 other parking spots, 12, that are currently signed and listed as do not park between 7 a.m. through 4 p.m. daily. Now, that was put in place while the sheriff was here. With the absence of the sheriff, the local neighbors, those from adjacent streets and properties have taken advantage of some free parking all along this, with the exception of the handicap. Enforcement, I'll let Danny and his crew speak to that. But currently, because the signs are in effect, it is illegal to park in these 12. It is legal, however, to park here. The signage runs along here. The issue we have is that the 4 here are long-term parkings for folks in the community. Some across the street at the abutting apartment buildings. They take turns switching out cars. We understand that parking's at a premium. However, we are good neighbors. We speak to folks all the time, and we assist them with shoveling out in the event that they are stuck. And we also call when we know that folks are going to be ticketed or even towed. We have the same issue with our department where we have folks come into the employee parking because there is no parking available at any time, these 3 or 4, and then they don't want to risk the ticket or being towed for parking illegally between 7 to 4, which our business hours, as you know, are from 8 a.m. to roughly 6 p.m. on most days. Commissioner, do you have any input?
I just want to say first and foremost to the committee members, thank you so much for having this forum. This is a matter of importance to us in terms of providing critical public health services to the residents of Springfield. This will help us in terms of making sure we can accommodate our residents when it comes to the health department to conduct businesses pertaining to premises, but also some critical health matters as well. So I just want to say thank you.
Thank you. We'll be available for any questions or any further discussion.
Thank you both. Just to make sure we're clear, so what is currently in place is you have the blue on your chart there. The
Yes.
blue is loading zone, right? Pretty much.
Handicap for the two blue, Counselor, and then the red above that, I apologize.
Okay.
That's where the loading zone is, currently on the corner of State and Myrtle. So when
So you
UPS,
just want to meter 4 spaces up to your parking lot.
exactly, that is correct, sir.
And then the rest of the street is currently no parking during the day, but seemingly unenforced.
That is correct. We
And
would
you
like
have
to have,
there's no proposal as to that.
yes, our proposal to that, the 12 that are currently marked no parking from 7 a.m. to 4 p.m., we would like to have that removed so that the citizens
Okay.
and our visitors and vendors can park legally without enforcement and without punitive damage.
Okay, I think that's helpful because I think the council was under the impression that it was metered parking, that the request was for metered parking all the way down, but it's really just for 4 metered spaces to be used for public access to the health department.
Exactly, up until 6 p.m., at which time, which is
They would then
currently in
become
place,
free.
everyone can park at their own, based on availability. First come, first served.
Okay, that's helpful. Councilor Perez has her hand up. Oh, Councilor, sorry, you're muted. Just got to unmute.
So, sorry, I have a question. So when you're gonna change are you changing the hours as well? From 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. for parking, or how do you how are you working on that? It's gonna be open all day?
Yes, for the 12, is that what
Yes,
we're?
sorry for the
We
12.
would like
Yeah.
to have that open at all times where the citizens can park. Even with the 4, I'm glad you asked that question that way. We have folks who currently, and we know who they are. Once it was explained to them that the meters is basically from 8 to 6, but however, this would open up so that they could park here.
Okay,
As they monitor the streets, they have folks in the buildings who, alert folks that, hey, parking's available.
okay, thank you.
The question I have is I like the overall plan, and I think updating the regulations on the whole street is a good idea. I think in terms of creating some space for visitors to DHHS with the 4 metered spaces, what would be the value of, because it's not really going to be a revenue generator. The meters are more of a method of just trying to control the space so that people are not there all day and visitors can be able to go in and out. But what would be the wisdom of perhaps just making it, 1 hour DHHS parking from the hours of 8 a.m. to 6, as opposed to putting meters? Because I know one of the concerns I have at City Hall is the lack of free parking available for residents coming in to do business. And so I think, at our exterior locations, the more that we can just make parking available, the better. Would folks have any thoughts on just making it restricted parking, for visitors from 8 to 6, 1 hour parking or something like that? What would be your thoughts on that?
Well, I'm glad you asked that, Counselor, and here's the answer I have for you. Currently, the bid has the same situation in front of their building on Main Street. But with that comes the added responsibility of looking out or for enforcement to determine who has been there 30 minutes legally. And if they've been there more than 30 minutes, then the enforcement of a ticket should ensue. Currently, we probably don't have the manpower or person power, better said, to do just that in our jobs. We do have cameras. What I think in terms of having the meter, it makes it more streamlined for enforcement. And Danny, you can speak to that, where they can look at an expired meter, take a picture, and there's no dispute that the meter is expired. This is your car. I didn't touch your car, because we know how folks get around touching their property. And with that, it makes it a more streamlined approach to parking and enforcement. And I know from my own accounts, when folks are ticketed here with the current signage, there are confrontations. There are threats. Folks throw things. We know the neighborhood we're in, and we know how people react when they feel they're not respected or that their property is touched in a way that they don't want to be.
Thank you. Maybe Bokul or Danny, if you want to speak to the two options relative to metered parking and the 30 minute to 1 hour restricted parking.
Danny, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, I mean, with the idea of the meters, it's a lot easier, like you said, for enforcement. If we do no meters and we're time parking or chalking, so you say you have to physically touch a person's vehicle with chalking the tires or taking pictures of their cars. And I know we generally run into issues with that. People don't like their cars being taken pictures of. They don't understand why we're doing it. But with a meter, it gives that sense of responsibility, knowing you have to move your car in whatever the time frame is, whether it's a half hour or 1 hour, or it gives the overturn of patrons coming in and out of the businesses. So I generally would I guess recommend the meter. It's just an easier option for everybody. But again, whatever you guys, we would back 100%.
I think just to add a couple of words to that, as you had indicated earlier, that person power is limited for us. We focus on the downtown areas with 5 or 6 enforcement officers we have. So we would have to get somebody over there time to time to enforce the area. I cannot promise how efficient or available they would be every half an hour or hour to go there and chalk and enforce. Maybe we can go there, I don't know, 2-3 times a day. From my experience, I know that around the Tower Square building, a lot of the employees working at Dunkin' Donuts, they go out to feed the meters every 2 hours. I know them, I see them all day long, knowing they're not supposed to do that. So I anticipate similar challenges from the residents around your building once they figure it out. That's what's going to happen. Just sharing my thoughts on that, that's all.
Councilor Perez?
Yeah, I just want to say, and to be clear, so in lieu of we releasing the hours of 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. from the 12 parking spaces that we have now, and we are just going to have 4 parking slots, and it's going to be metered, correct?
That's correct.
So on the issue of the other issue that's being presented, I'm having in my ward similar issue because the residents, with having 30 minutes and an hour, sometimes the residents themselves cannot find parking. And it's because of the issue of base day, and they have been ticketed, and it has to turn out to be an issue here in my ward. So I'm raising that concern when it comes to the residents. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Councilor Perez. Is there any guest parking in the DHHS parking lot, or is it all employee parking in the DHHS parking lot?
Well, that's a yes and a no. We have 21 available parking spots for employees. We have 25 cars. Currently, we've been able to maneuver that between the hours of 8:15 to probably 9:15 because our sanitarium / environmental health inspectors come in, double park or however, and then they're given their assignments and then they leave. So that kind of frees up 2 to 3, maybe 4, and then there's folks who run out to do business based on the nature of their jobs. However, they run the risk of coming back and someone being in the spot, be it an employee or someone coming in to conduct business, or someone who comes in and parks illegally and heads into one of the buildings. So we are, well, I won't use that word. We are snug or around parking as we speak as a department. We're looking at ways to kind of ease folks from parking in our parking lot illegally, and also making sure that the cars and the safety of our employees are in consideration. We've had 6 different accidents or bump and scrapes done by others who are not employed by the department. And we're trying to figure out with you and your help, ways that we can get folks who want to do business with the department from the hours of 8 to 6 in a way that we can rotate some type of parking. We know the 12 on the end are going to be parked completely. That's the issue we have now. We're just hoping that there's some way we can relieve the stress of folks coming out to their cars being damaged and folks who are doing long-term parking in front of our building who have no relationship with us or this particular neighborhood. I'll give you one account. Officer Bernice Burgos is our ordinance officer. I had a white Jeep parked 33 days consecutively without moving its wheels. 33 days. And only to have her put an abandoned sticker on that car and encouraging them to move it at some point so we can move snow and inclement weather, that they came out within 4 hours and moved it, only to find that they lived in another part of the city.
So you're opening up 12 spots that right now are not open. You're opening up 12 spots that right now technically are not open.
Legally.
And you're doing 2 handicap, 4 metered, and you got your loading zone.
Exactly.
All right, any other questions?
No, but
Seeing none.
Thank you for your time and consideration.
Yes, sir.
Thank
Well,
you.
it's much more clear. It's much more clear. I think, and we'll be able to report this back to the full council with that clarification. This will be on Monday night for a final vote. And it would be helpful. We don't need everybody, but it would be helpful if there was a representative, just in case councilors have further questions. But we'll give Councilor Perez and I will give a committee report explaining the situation, and then they'll move for a final vote.
Thank you so much.
Thank
So,
you.
Councilor Perez, we just need a motion to refer this back to the full committee.
So I entertain a motion to refer to the entire committee.
And I second it. And we both, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. So we're good for the 25th, gentlemen. Thank you all so much. And we'll see you on Monday night.
Thank you.
Thank you.